All right, the cool kid. Today we're going to talk about something I haven't talked about in a while, years even, while I put away some stuff. The work week is over. Next week I work 6 out of 7 days. But this week is over. So we're going to put up this $85 seated dollar. We're going to put up this cap bust half and this Liberty Head, aka cap bust half time. They're all getting put up today, and we're going to talk about asset classes a little bit, because now that silver is, to the moon or whatever, you're going to want to know what I know in my years of experience. Again, just an enthusiast, not a reputable dealer or somebody that can give you actual investment advice. Not a CPA, just a dude going my own way. Okay? Anyway, what I have on me is a couple tools you're going to need. Coinflation. Coinflation's great. We love coinflation. It's going to give you up-to-date melt values, all your coins, even the copper nickel ones, if you feel so inclined. Okay? If you're looking at that, you'll definitely notice real quick that the 5-cent coin and the 1-cent coins really stand out. The copper ones before 1982 especially. And that is not an accident. There's a reason they switched to zinc. But even your zinc coins, right, are going to be about worth a cent, almost a cent. But that fluctuates. I've seen them over a cent, but zinc will fluctuate. Copper does not go below. That ship has sailed. So your nickels and your 1-cent coins are really the way to go. As far as the base metal coins. However, this video is not really about that, is it? I want to talk about silver dollars. Because in 1986, they came out with these. It was a retread of the Walker half, and then they did a reverse for it. Not a bad coin. Apparently this is the super rare key date, blah, 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 even though there's no W on it, which to me, I think it's a bit of a BS product. Without this holder, you wouldn't even know this coin was from the West Point Mint, right? So that's a bit of a joke to me, but it's legit. If it says so, it's at least you know where it's from. But you guys have seen these coins. You probably own a few. Generally speaking, you're going to pay a premium on these. You're rarely going to get these under melt. Now, as melt is a moving target, I would say all of mine are under melt now, but that doesn't mean much. Everything's under melt now, right? Because of that moonshot, that aforementioned moonshot. So what you want to calculate is how'd you do, because you could have been buying these instead of something else, right? Or vice versa. So the question is, which of these things, if silver drops back down into the teens and you have the heart to start over, what should you be stacking? So that's really what this video is about. So, for example, $24 is what I paid for this. Now, at the time I purchased it, it was very close to melt. Maybe just a buck over. That's not a bad price for a coin in that condition, you know. But that at that time, silver was $32 an ounce when I bought that, right? And that was back in 2012 or 2011. I want to say it was 2011. Same thing with this coin, but at the same time, this one's been cleaned. Yeah, to me, it looks like it's been cleaned. But for $24, who cares, right? But as time goes on, right, you start to see the prices dip, right? Because you've been stacking for a while, and that's when you buy something like this. This is a coal, right? But if you weighed it, it's going to be about $35 worth of silver here at current price point, right? But you get the coal for $15.87, right? So there's different ways to stack these. But another way I like is you get these commemoratives, and these sell at or below melt all the time because no one cares about them. So this is an excellent way to get constitutional silver near melt. Anytime you can do that. And some of these are scarcer than others. A lot of people don't realize that some of these coins are actually low mintage. And that is a cool thing to capitalize on, right? But a lot of times the cooler coins will cost more. It's just, this one was $23.98, which right now is well below melt, but at the time of purchase, I'm sure it was very close to melt. If you get to pick between Peace dollars and Morgan dollars, assuming they're all common date, it's just a personal preference thing. However, if you're hoping to get something rare or special, get the Morgans, right? So if someone's like, I got a roll of random dates, and I don't know what's in here, you're gonna, you can only get to search one roll, the Peace dollars or the Morgans. Most of the time, the Morgans are the way to go. Don't get me wrong, there are some good dates on the Peace dollars. 21, I think 28S, 35 is pretty good. There's some good dates. So, all things considered, remember at all times when you're stacking this stuff, you're looking at, if you're going for bullion, all these silver dollars have the exact same silver weight. Every one we showed. Now, there are exceptions, and we're going to talk about those here in a little bit. But, well, this would be an exception, right? Because it's got a hole in it. Right? So you got to consider that. Silver weights are the same, though, for the Peace dollar, the commemorative dollars, and the Morgans. They are not the same for those ASEs. Those are, of course, 1 troy ounce. All right. So what I want to kind of show you here is that on average, I would say I pay quite a bit less for Peace dollars than I do for Morgan dollars. That's what I'm seeing here, just looking at this. Now, I do have more, many more, and I have some that aren't even in flips. So, but generally speaking, the Peace dollars tend to have a lower premium than the Morgans. Why that is, I couldn't say. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? The Peace dollars are newer. And, if you get some, like I said, some crappy coals, you can get them under melt or near melt. Sometimes there's a premium even on coals. It all depends on how hot the market is. Sometimes you'll see crazy stuff like these proof ASEs. These are the special premier 2016, 30 years of making them, I think it was. Special, so it's got the special edging here that's commemorating that. $35 is what I paid. Yeah. That's what the pawn shop was selling them for. I like to check the pawn shops because sometimes they do dumb stuff like this. I did get 2 of those. Yeah. So, when you're stacking, you have to consider one, the silver you're getting, right? So is it a nice silver that some people will want? Like, 1968 Kennedy half is not something anyone's going to be searching for, but a proof ASE might be something someone really, really wants. So you got to consider that first. You got to consider, scarcity, the cool factor, right? Like this would be a purely numismatic purchase. And I paid $35 for this coin. The melt value on this coin is about $18, so way over melt, almost double. You're paying for the cool factor. Can I sell it for that? Probably. I'd imagine so. But is it a big moneymaker like, buying this for $10? No. I'm going to do a lot better buying this for $10 than I am that cap bust. Because it's just not in great shape. So, But it's fun to collect stuff. Here's a 68 Kennedy, for example. These are the coins that you can get under melt anytime you want. And the melt value on this coin right now, we're going to look at it. Right now, this coin is worth $7.40, right? But I guarantee you, if I went to sell this, I can't get $7.40 for it. I bet I can get like $6. And from what I gather, refineries have shut down because the price of silver is up too high. And they don't know if it's going to come crashing down. They're doing a wait and see thing, okay? But let's assume the refineries are working. They're not going to give me melt for that. They might give me melt for this one, though. So this might be a way to look and go. It's the 64, because generally they're not very worn out. Even this one, it looks like it got some circulation. All the details are there. So I paid $10 for this. The melt value is $18.10. So, you're doing pretty good. There was a long period of time where you could get this kind of stuff for $10 all day. Okay. So this is going to be your non-dollar junk silver. Oh, wait, there is one more thing I want to show you before we get to that. 40% Ikes. Again, you can get them under melt all day. But when I go to sell this, right, the melt value on it right now is $15.82. So, but I'm going to have to sell it back of that. I'm going to have to sell it probably like $13, which is still fine if you bought it at $8.99. No one cares, right? You did great. But if you bought it at melt today, silver's going to have to go up for you to do okay on it, right? And some of this stuff you buy it at melt, you can't lose, right? Like a Morgan dollar, someone will give you melt for it. They'll give you melt for it. Ike, maybe if you're lucky, you'll get melt for it, but you're not going to get it from the dealers. So that's the other part you got to realize. There's a resale value. Some stuff's more sought after than others. This 1994. I think the mintage is a little lower on these, so you might get a little premium on that. Maybe not, right? But I know 96 is going to give you a premium. If you're doing the Ikes, you might want to go with the proofs. Here's a proof one. All right, here's the silver. Now remember, these Ikes, they're not all silver. But the silver ones, they're from the San Francisco Mint, but not all San Francisco Mint Ikes are silver. So it's just something to know. You gotta check it. You gotta weigh it or look at it. You can look at the edges, but they are out there to be had. I have plenty of them. And silver under melt, I'm buying it. That's the other thing you gotta realize. Silver under melt, you're buying it, right? If it's under melt, the only thing I would caution on with that is a certain low percentage silver, like war nickels. You need to be quite a bit under melt for a war nickel to be worth grabbing. Okay, just gonna say it. I would say 15 to 20% under melt if you can. War nickels are notorious for being considered the herpes of silver. Even though, oddly enough, they have more silver in them per cent than any other coin ever minted by the United States Mint. Yeah, let me say that again. $2.81 worth of silver and 5 cents. If we do the math, right, we can go through all these coins and not one of them is even going to come close to that ratio. There's more silver per cent in a war nickel than there is in an ASE, which is pure silver. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, right? People hate on them, but actually I think if we ever went to barter, war nickels would be where it's at because you get a lot of silver for your money. If we truly went to barter, if the dollar truly died. Now, you also have high-end collectibles like this Lafayette dollar, right? Now, the ASE on this is going to be exactly the same, or ASW rather, is going to be exactly the same as the Morgan dollar. But there is one coin I have that's not true about. Also, anything cap bust is going to have a different silver weight, right? See that? Then your run-of-the-mill silver. So the ASW is going to be 0.3617 for your standard half dollar nowadays. The 64 back to, into the seeded stuff. But these coins are 89% silver, not 90. They're a little bigger, they're a little heavier, they got a little more silver in them. Okay? So when you're looking at these, just realize there's a little more silver in them. Same thing with the half dimes and the dimes. Okay, so that's a little distinction that a lot of people probably don't know. The trade dollar. Now, again, you're not going to be getting these anywhere near milk. I once saw one for $75. That's the cheapest one I ever saw. I paid $2.75 for this. So I think I overpaid. But, whatever. Live and learn. Bought this early on. Just had to have one, right? It's got the nice chop marks, which everybody either loves or hates. But anyway, I digress. 0.788 instead of your standard. It's just a little heavier, right? And why is it a little heavier? Well, they wanted it to be the same weight as an 8 real from Mexico. Okay, that's the long and short of it, right? So your standard coin is 0.7734. So it's just a little heavier. But that little bit of heaviness, that counts. All right. So yeah, there we go. I'll sum this up. In general, now I will show one exception that I've always found to be true. These Washington halves, you can get them under melt all the time. I've gotten them at $6-7. Most of the ones I own they were under melt when I bought them. Okay. It's important to know that, guys, because these are nice coins. 90% silver, nothing to hate about them. I like the design. No one knows about them. So no one's out. You're not in a competition like you would be, say, for a fancy, commemorative. Not that this one I didn't pay big money for, but there are fancy commemoratives that cost quite a lot. Okay, of the commemorative halves, this one and I think it's the 96 or 97 one, or 86. Is it 90? Madison's on it. I do have one, but I don't have it on me. You might be able to find that under belt. I found one under belt once, It might have been 89. I don't know. There's only one other silver half after 1982. From 82 on, that's it that I know of. Other than your silver sets, there are silver sets. But as far as commemoratives, they are not silver except for the James, I think it's the James Madison. I can't remember what year it was. I want to say it was 87 or 89. All right. Generally speaking, this stuff is better to grab than the dollars. That's my experience. That's purely anecdotal. The dimes are my favorite because it's the most fractional version of silver that you can find readily. You're not going to get half dimes or trimes. Anyway, have an amazing day. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all that jive. Find all the collectibles of your dreams while you're awake.